Hi, I'm going to demonstrate how you can install a water cooler in the SilverStone SETA A2. We're going to go through this step by step. Now, some of these steps you don't have to do in the same order that I do them in, but it's up to you. So, two of the things that are very important is removing this. And also, depending on what you're planning to do, you may need to turn around the mounting tray for the fans in the front. That will give you more space for a radiator. In fact, even if you want to keep this here, if you turn that mounting tray around, you'll be able to put a water cooler's radiator here. So let's start with that. So we're going to need to open up both sides of the case. Now it's a little bit messy in here because I was experimenting with this beforehand, so don't mind the mess. And then we need to remove these 6 bolts here in order to disconnect the storage units. All right. Now that that's done, we can lift this out and set it aside, or store it if we don't want to use it for the time being. Normally, all these wires would be running through here and be retained by this one and this one. What you're going to want to do is unplug all of these in order that, and it's very tight, in order to make sure that you're going to have enough slack when you are working on the tray. You can put these 2 back. These are for the ARGB on the front of the case. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the front, reach down here, and just pull it off. Now, it is still connected here, so be careful. And you're going to remove the thumb screws. You can not lose them. And then this is just now held in place with these 2 things. So you're going to want to take this out. I've just put this back in place so I don't have to hold on to it to keep it from falling off and damaging the cabling. So you're going to want to remove all of these fans from here if you're going to install an AIO in here. Otherwise, if you're going to have it on the outside, facing this way, like this instead of the default like this, you're going to want to most likely turn these fans around so they're still blowing inwards. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to take these out so we can experiment with having a liquid freezer in here as well as a standard sized AIO. So you just have to remove all of the screws. It's kind of a laborious process, but it's easy. Before you pull a fan out, you want to make sure to get it the cable from behind the clips for the fans so that the cable will come right out. Now that I've got the frame emptied, I'm going to put the radiator of one of my liquid freezers in here. This one happens to be the liquid freezer 2, and the screws for both the fans and the radiator come in the same package. If you're using the radiator screws, they are, okay, so this is the fan screw, and this is the radiator bolt. So this one is the radiator bolt, this one is the fan bolt. You can see, I hope, the difference between the 2 of them. This is the one you want, but you have to use it because oftentimes the slots for the things are designed for the fan bolts. You have to use the included washer because they do not. They decided for whatever reason not to use a wide-headed bolt. So you put the washer on and then you mount it. And as you can see, I've already done that. Since I'm not doing this on a table, it's going to be a little bit awkward for me. But the first step is to get the tube and the head inside. Now you can reattach all of the thumb screws. Please note that I have not adjusted the orientation of the fans on the radiator. You can put them in between the case and the radiator so that the radiator is closer to the CPU, especially if your case, especially if you're having trouble reaching the CPU, because if you want the tubes down here, I have it up here doesn't really make a difference for this demonstration. If you have the tubes down here, you're going to need more tubing to reach your CPU, and therefore you'll want to consider mounting the fans against this mounting tray and then mounting the radiator against the fans. That way it brings you that much closer to the CPU. You also want to decide whether they're going to be intaking air or exhausting air. I've got it installed, so I can close this up. If you want to run the fans from a separate cable, because this has got one cable system, but if you want to run these separately, you'll want to run the fans back through the cable holes on the side here, or up here, whatever, and get them over to the hub back here. But otherwise, as you can see, it fits very nicely in there. Even with the Arctic liquid freezer, you still have enough clearance. I'm not going to say that this is ideal, but I think that this is a good indicator for that. If you want to install, I don't have any 280s or 420s to see about clearance in the event of using that, but I'm going to put my Liquid Freezer 3 over here so you can see that next. Since I don't have a 140 wide water cooler, we can look at the amount of space it's going to require by putting the fan like that. And we can see that if we assume that the radiator is going to be 25 millimeters thick as well, and I think that's not an unreasonable expectation for a radiator, since most radiators are going to be 27 centimeters thick. So if I put this one against that one, that's pretty close. So unfortunately, the most space that's available here with this radiator that is 120 millimeters wide is 50 millimeters. So yeah, you won't be able to put in 2 liquid freezers. You can definitely put a liquid freezer here. You would be able to alternatively mount the liquid freezer here and then put a regular radiator that's not as thick as this one, because this one, the thickness is 38 millimeters, and that's just way too thick. Even one that is, I would say, 35 millimeters thick for the radiator and 25 for the fans, or a total of 60 would be the maximum thickness if you wanted to have 2 radiators that were thicker than normal and also wider, the 140 width. If you go back to my original video, there is a picture in there that was given to me by SilverStone that it's mounted with all 420 millimeter AIOs, one here, and one here. This has got the least amount of space for extra thickness, so you can only put a regular thickness AIO up here. But again, for this one and this one, you should be able to do one thick and one thin, as long as, if you've got the thick one here, the front one can't be any more than about 60 millimeters. Let's try, however, putting another liquid freezer back here, another 360 that is, and see what that looks like, because I think that's going to fit in there perfectly, and that'll be good news for everybody that's got a 120 wide AIO that they want to put over here. So as you can see, they both fit in there just fine. I'm not going to bother putting another AIO up here. It just seems kind of redundant at this point, and it's obvious that it can be done. But now we can see that 2 extra thick 120 millimeter wide radiators can go here. Now, again, we have the problem. 420s. 420s are going to take up extra width, and I can already see that the space that this is taking up is overlapping the space that this is taking up. But that wouldn't be a problem if you mounted the thick radiator here, as long as it wasn't, let's just say that you have 1.5 centimeters of clearance between these two. Now, if it's a 140, again, you can't put a thick radiator on this side if they're both 140s. Now, you're probably saying, well, why am I going to mount two Arctic liquid freezers? You're not. Unless you're running a computer that has a dual CPU motherboard and 2 CPUs are in it, you're not going to be doing this. This is in the event that you're doing extreme water cooling, where you need multiple large radiators mounted inside of the case. But we can see that we can do this. You can't really flip the mounting tray around on the top. That's not going to get you extra space. But flipping it around here is where you gain all that extra space. So that's really important to know. And I'm so glad. Thank you to Stein Settleman for asking me more questions about this. I appreciate that, and for the kind words and support. He's my second member. We've got Rudik and Stein Settleman now supporting me on Patreon.com. Thank you again, guys. Appreciate it very, very much. It gives me hope that someday, maybe, I'll have enough that I can turn off advertising for, at least for members, and do more things. You know, maybe someday I'll be able to actually hire somebody to do video editing for me so my videos look better. Yeah. So if there are any questions about this, please let me know and I'll try to answer all your questions for you. Thank you.
I'm sorry to do this, but I need to ask for your help. Because Amazon and Sedgwick won't take responsibility for the injury I sustained at work, that is going to cause me to have my shoulder replaced on November 29th of 2024. I'm going to be off of work for 3 to 4 months, and the pay that I'll be getting from Amazon during that time, because Sedgwick will not pay me anything, will be after taxes and benefits, probably somewhere in the area of $10, maybe $12, something like that, per hour of a 40-hour week. And so that's going to be very financially troublesome for me, to put it mildly. I mean, just my rent alone is like $1,150, and then there are all the other expenses. I do have some help, but I do appreciate it if anybody is willing to help. You can join my channel, Glenn's Fast Reviews, or you can go to patreon.com/GlennMII and become a member there. If you can't safely do that, please don't, though. I don't want anybody financially getting into trouble with trying to help me. That would just that would make me feel really, really bad, as if somehow I was responsible for the choice you made, even though it was your choice. So if you can't, that's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.